there are certain moments in life that become etched into your memory, haunting your thoughts long after they've passed. For me, one of those moments occurred on a Halloween night, as I crossed the old Phantom Creek Bridge. It was 11:45 p.m., and the moon hung low in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the desolate landscape. I was navigating my truck along the narrow road that wound its way through the woods, my headlights cutting through the darkness like a beacon of safety. I'd been on the road for hours, and exhaustion was beginning to gnaw at my bones. As I approached the bridge, a chill ran down my spine. The Phantom Creek Bridge had always been a source of local legends and ghost stories. They said that those who crossed the bridge on Halloween night might encounter the spirits of the past, lingering on the edge of reality. I tried to shake off the unease as I began my descent onto the bridge. The wooden planks creaked beneath the weight of my truck, and the wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it the distant echoes of a forgotten past. It was then that I saw them, a group of figures standing on the edge of the bridge. My heart raced as I slowed down, my headlights illuminating their forms. They were dressed in tattered clothes, their faces obscured by shadows. My first instinct was to drive past them without a second thought, but something made me pause. One of them stepped forward, raising a hand in a gesture that was part plea and part command. I could barely see their features, but I could make out the deep crimson stains on their clothes, stains that looked far too much like blood. As I stared, my mind raced through the possibilities. Were they injured? Were they victims of some accident? And then the truth hit me like a sledgehammer. I was alone on this desolate road, in the middle of the night, facing a group of strangers with bloodied clothes. I felt a knot of fear tighten in my chest, and I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. I knew I had a choice to make. Do I offer them a ride and risk my own safety, or do I hit the gas and get as far away from this situation as possible? I made the decision in an instant. My survival instincts kicked in, screaming at me to get out of there. I hit the gas pedal, my truck roaring to life as I sped past the figures on the bridge. I dared a quick glance in my rearview mirror, and what I saw chilled me to the bone. The figures had turned to face me, their eyes glowing with an unnatural light. Their mouths twisted into grotesque smiles that seemed to stretch impossibly wide, revealing rows of jagged teeth. It was as if they were mocking me, laughing at my fear. I didn't look back again. I drove as fast as the road would allow, my heart pounding in my chest as I left the bridge and the figures behind me. It wasn't until I reached the safety of a well-lit gas station that I allowed myself to catch my breath. As I sat there, my hands still shaking, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd narrowly escaped a fate far worse than I could imagine. Those figures on the bridge, they weren't normal. They weren't human. Something about them was off, something that defied the laws of reality. And so, as I continue my journeys as a trucker, I carry that night with me, a reminder that there are forces in this world that we can never fully comprehend. As I pass by the Phantom Creek Bridge, I can't help but wonder what lies just beyond the edge of perception, waiting to be discovered by those who dare to venture into the unknown. But one thing is for certain, I won't be stopping to offer a lift to anyone, no matter how convincing their pleas may be. Now before I begin reading the next story, I wish you a very happy Halloween. It'll be a delight if you could support my work by subscribing to the channel and leaving a like on this video. It was Halloween night, and I found myself behind the wheel of my trusty old truck, navigating the dark roads near Sleepy Hollow. The crisp autumn air had a chill to it, and the rustling leaves seemed to whisper ancient secrets as they danced across the road. As a trucker, I've been on my fair share of long hauls, but there was something about the legendary Sleepy Hollow that sent shivers down my spine. I knew taking a shortcut through the dense forest near Sleepy Hollow was a risky move, but I was running behind schedule and hoped it would save me some time. The moonlight filtered through the dense canopy of trees, casting eerie shadows on the road ahead. The wind howled through the branches, making it sound like the very forest itself was alive. As I drove deeper into the woods, a feeling of unease settled over me. The trees seemed to close in, forming a twisted maze that swallowed me whole. The headlights of my truck cut through the darkness, revealing gnarled branches and the occasional glimpse of movement just beyond the edge of my vision. My heart raced as I realized I was not alone out here. Strange sounds echoed through the woods, whispers that carried on the wind, leaves crunching under unseen footsteps. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, my knuckles turning white. It was as if the forest itself was alive, watching me, waiting for me to make a wrong move. My headlights illuminated something up ahead, a figure standing in the middle of the road. I slammed on the brakes, my heart pounding in my chest. As the truck screeched to a halt, the figure turned to face me, revealing a face hidden beneath a tattered hood. My breath caught in my throat as I realized that there was no face at all, just an empty void where it should have been. Panic surged through me, and I fumbled to shift the truck into reverse. The figure stood there, unmoving, as if taunting me. The forest around me seemed to come alive with movement, shadows shifting, whispers growing louder. I backed up, tires spinning in the dirt, until I was able to turn the truck around. I accelerated, my heart racing as I put distance between myself and that unsettling presence. But no matter how fast I drove, the feeling of being watched persisted. The forest seemed to stretch on forever, the trees reaching out like skeletal fingers trying to grab hold of me. I rounded a bend in the road and nearly collided with another figure, this one draped in tattered clothes and carrying a lantern that cast an eerie glow. My heart leaped into my throat as the figure raised the lantern, revealing a face twisted in a malevolent grin. I swerved to avoid them, my truck narrowly missing a tree. My pulse pounded in my ears as I pushed the gas pedal to the floor, determined to escape this nightmare. But the road seemed to stretch on endlessly, each turn leading me deeper into the heart of the forest. The figures appeared and disappeared like phantoms, their presence a constant reminder that I was not alone. Hours seemed to pass, though the clock on my dashboard stubbornly read 2 a.m. The forest showed no signs of relenting, and the figures grew more persistent. It was as if they were guiding me, leading me further into their realm. I fought against the feeling, my mind a whirlwind of fear and confusion. Finally, just as I thought I couldn't take it any longer, the forest began to thin. The twisted trees gave way to open roads, and the figures disappeared into the darkness. I drove for miles, my heart still racing, until I finally reached the outskirts of Sleepy Hollow. As the first rays of dawn painted the sky, I pulled over on the side of the road, my hands shaking. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. The events of that Halloween night would forever be etched into my memory, the twisted trees, the unsettling figures, and the feeling that I had stumbled into a world beyond our own. I may never fully understand what happened that night, but one thing is certain, the legends of Sleepy Hollow are not just stories to scare children. There are things that lurk in the shadows, things that defy explanation, and on Halloween night, when the boundary between our world and the supernatural is at its thinnest, those things can reach out and touch us in ways we could never imagine. I hope you never cross paths with the terrors of Sleepy Hollow and the chilling specters that roam its haunted forest. Happy Halloween. On a chilly Halloween night, I found myself navigating the historic town of Salem, Massachusetts, with a mysterious cargo nestled in the back of my truck. The streets were adorned with eerie decorations, and the air was thick with an ominous atmosphere. As a trucker, I had seen my fair share of strange deliveries, but this one felt different, as if the weight of history and folklore hung heavy in the air. The town's infamous past added to my unease as I approached my destination, a quaint antique shop nestled within the heart of Salem. The streets were empty, the townsfolk hidden away in their homes, likely preparing for the night's festivities. I parked my truck in front of the shop and stepped out, feeling a distinct chill run down my spine. As I unloaded the cargo, I noticed strange symbols etched on the wooden crates. They seemed ancient, and a shiver crept up my spine as I wondered about their meaning. Despite the cold, sweat formed on my brow as I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I pushed my apprehensions aside and focused on the task at hand, carrying the crates into the dimly lit shop. The owner, an elderly woman with piercing blue eyes, greeted me with a knowing smile. "Ah, the delivery has arrived just in time for the festivities," she said in a hauntingly soft voice. As I placed the crates on the floor, the woman's gaze fixated on the symbols. "Remarkable, isn't it?" she mused. "These symbols are a part of Salem's dark history, a connection to the ancient curse that still haunts this town." I couldn't help but feel a shiver run down my spine. Curse? What do you mean? I asked, my curiosity getting the better of me. The woman's eyes gleamed with a strange intensity. Legend has it that Salem was once cursed by a coven of witches who sought vengeance against the town. Their power was so immense that they left behind symbols to protect their secrets. Anyone who crosses their path is said to suffer misfortune and disappear without a trace. I scoffed at the notion of curses and ancient witches, attributing it to mere superstition. Yet, as I left the shop that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being followed. The shadows seemed to whisper, and the symbols on the crates taunted me from the corners of my vision. As Halloween night descended, the town came alive with festivities and revelry. Despite my unease, I couldn't resist the allure of the festivities, and I decided to explore the historic streets of Salem. As I wandered through the cobblestone lanes, I noticed the strange symbols everywhere etched into the walls, painted on doors, and even carved into the pumpkins that adorned the town square. The townsfolk seemed blissfully unaware of the eerie presence that hung in the air, but I couldn't escape the feeling that something sinister was at play. I returned to the antique shop, hoping to get more answers from the enigmatic woman. To my dismay, the shop was now deserted, and the crates were gone. Panic surged within me as I realized that my cargo had vanished, leaving behind only the haunting symbols on the floor. I frantically searched the shop for any clue, but it was as if the crates had never been there at all. As I stepped back outside, the town had transformed. The once lively streets were now empty and cloaked in an eerie silence. The symbols seemed to glow with an unnatural light, and the whispers grew louder, taunting me with their ancient secrets. Fear gripped my heart as I realized that I had become entangled in the curse of Salem. Desperation overcame me as I tried to escape the town, but each turn I took only led me deeper into its haunted embrace. The night stretched on, and with each passing moment, I felt myself slipping further into darkness. The symbols seemed to dance before my eyes, mocking my futile attempts to break free from their hold. In a last-ditch effort, I sought the help of the townsfolk, hoping that they could shed some light on the mystery. But to my horror, their eyes held a vacant emptiness, and they seemed oblivious to my pleas. I was trapped in a waking nightmare, haunted by the symbols and the curse they represented. The town of Salem had become a prison, and I was its unwilling captive. As the night wore on, I felt the ancient power of the curse seeping into my very soul. The symbols etched themselves into my mind, and the whispers echoed in my ears, driving me to the brink of madness. In a moment of clarity, I realized that the only way to break free from the curse was to confront its source, the ancient witches who had cast it all those centuries ago. With a newfound determination, I retraced my steps back to the heart of Salem. The symbols seemed to pulse with anticipation, and the whispers grew louder, urging me to turn back. But I pressed on, driven by the need to break the curse that had ensnared me. The town square loomed before me, and in its center stood an ancient oak tree, its branches reaching for the moonlit sky. As I approached, I noticed a faint glow emanating from the tree's trunk. I've always been a night owl, so driving long hauls as a trucker suited me just fine. But nothing could have prepared me for the chilling experience I had one fateful Halloween night on Route 666. It was 2 a.m., and the desert landscape of New Mexico stretched out before me in the moonlight. Historic Route 666 was known for its eerie reputation, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease as I drove along the desolate highway. The radio crackled with static, adding to the isolation of the night. As I continued down the road, a thick fog rolled in, obscuring my vision and making it difficult to see more than a few feet ahead. I slowed down, gripping the steering wheel tightly as I strained to make out the road. My heart raced as I felt an inexplicable sense of being watched, as if unseen eyes were following my every move. Then, out of nowhere, a figure appeared in the middle of the road. I slammed on the brakes, my heart in my throat as I narrowly avoided a collision. I stared at the figure, my breath catching in my chest. It was a woman, dressed in a white gown that seemed to glow in the moonlight. Her eyes were empty and hollow, and her expression was one of pure despair. I blinked, and she was gone. Shaken, I took a deep breath and looked around, trying to make sense of what I had just seen. But the fog had grown thicker, enveloping my truck and creating an eerie silence that seemed to press against my ears. I continued driving, the unease growing with every mile. The radio remained static-filled, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being guided by an unseen force. Shadows danced at the edges of my vision, and strange shapes seemed to form in the fog. I passed a weathered road sign that read mile marker 66. My heart skipped a beat as I realized the significance of the number, Route 666. It was said to be a cursed stretch of road, and the legends of strange occurrences and supernatural phenomena had always intrigued me. But now, faced with the unknown, I couldn't deny that the legends held a grain of truth. As I drove, I began to hear whispers, faint and indistinct, as if carried on the wind. My palms grew sweaty, and my pulse quickened as I strained to catch the words. They were haunting, full of sorrow and anguish, and they seemed to echo from all directions at once. My headlights illuminated a small figure on the side of the road, a child, standing alone in the fog. My heart ached as I slowed down, my instincts urging me to help. But just as I was about to call out, the child's head snapped around, revealing eyes that glowed an unnatural shade of red. My blood ran cold as I realized that this was no ordinary child. I hit the gas, my heart pounding as I sped away from the sinister presence. The fog seemed to thicken, closing in around me like a suffocating shroud. I tried to focus on the road, on the solid reality in front of me, but the whispers grew louder, drowning out all other sound. Suddenly, a blinding light appeared in my rearview mirror, and I swerved to the side to avoid being rear-ended. I caught a glimpse of the source, a phantom truck, its headlights piercing through the fog, barreling towards me with unnatural speed. I pushed my truck harder, my heart racing as I prayed to escape the pursuing apparition. The fog began to lift, and the phantom truck faded from view. I pulled over, my breath ragged as I stared out at the empty desert landscape. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had crossed into a realm beyond understanding, a world where the laws of reality no longer applied. As the first light of dawn began to break over the horizon, I took a deep breath and turned the key in the ignition. The engine roared to life, and I put the truck in gear, determined to put as much distance between myself and Route 666 as possible. Even now, as I continue my trucking journeys across the country, I can't shake the memory of that Halloween night on Route 666. The whispers, the phantom figures, the otherworldly fog, they haunt my thoughts, a constant reminder that there are forces beyond our comprehension lurking just beyond the veil of reality. And every time I pass a mile marker with the number 666, a shiver runs down my spine, and I can't help but wonder if the legends are true, and if I truly ventured into a realm where the supernatural and the mundane collide. I've seen my fair share of long nights on the road as a trucker, but nothing could have prepared me for the chilling journey I embarked on one fateful Halloween night on Route 13 in Moonlight County. It was 3 a.m., and the moon hung low in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the desolate countryside. Route 13 had always been infamous for its unsettling reputation, and as I navigated my truck along its winding path, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was entering a realm beyond the known world. The trees along the roadside seemed to reach out with gnarled branches, their shadows dancing in the moonlight. I'd heard the rumors about this stretch of road, tales of ghostly apparitions and unexplainable phenomena. But I was a seasoned trucker, and I dismissed the stories as mere superstition. As I continued my drive, a dense fog began to roll in, obscuring my vision and wrapping the landscape in an otherworldly haze. The road seemed to stretch on forever, a path into the unknown. The radio crackled with static, the usual channels filled with garbled voices that sent a shiver down my spine. Then, in the distance, I saw a figure standing by the side of the road. I slowed down, squinting through the fog to get a better look. It was a woman, dressed in a tattered gown that fluttered in the wind. Her eyes were hollow, staring out into the night with a vacant gaze. I blinked, and the figure vanished. I shook my head, attributing the sighting to fatigue in the thick fog. But the unease settled in my gut like a heavy weight. I reached for my thermos of coffee, taking a long sip to steady my nerves. As I drove on, the fog seemed to grow thicker, wrapping around my truck like a shroud. Strange shapes danced at the edge of my vision, and I could swear I heard whispers carried on the wind, faint and distant, yet unsettling in their urgency. A dilapidated sign caught my eye, Moonlight Cemetery, 2 miles ahead. The name sent a shiver down my spine, but I pressed on. The moon hung low in the sky, casting eerie shadows over the tombstones as I passed by. And then, I saw her again, the woman in the tattered gown. This time, she stood at the entrance of the cemetery, her eyes fixed on me as I drove by. I couldn't help but feel that she was trying to convey something, a message from beyond the veil. I continued along Route 13, my grip on the steering wheel tightening with each passing mile. The fog seemed to seep into my thoughts, clouding my mind with an inexplicable dread. The road ahead twisted and turned, leading me deeper into the heart of the unknown. And then, the fog lifted, revealing a dilapidated farmhouse on the side of the road. It was as if the mist had concealed it until I was right upon it. The windows were shattered, and the porch sagged under the weight of neglect. I slowed down, my curiosity getting the better of me. As I stared at the house, a shadow moved past one of the broken windows. My heart raced as I reached for the flashlight in my glove compartment, casting its beam into the darkness. The interior was empty, or so it seemed. I was about to drive away when I heard a soft whimper. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but it sent a chill down my spine. I aimed the flashlight at the source of the sound, a child's doll, discarded on the porch. Its porcelain face was cracked, and its glassy eyes seemed to hold a mournful expression. And then, in the moonlight, the doll blinked. I slammed my foot on the gas, the roar of the engine filling my ears as I sped away from the farmhouse. My heart pounded, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I had glimpsed something beyond the realm of the living, something that defied explanation and reason. As the first light of dawn began to break over the horizon, I breathed a sigh of relief. The mist had lifted, revealing a landscape that seemed almost normal once again. But the memory of that night on Route 13 would forever haunt my thoughts, a reminder that the world is far stranger and more mysterious than we can ever comprehend. Now, whenever I hear stories of the supernatural or unexplained, I can't help but think back to that Halloween night. The woman in the tattered gown, the whispers in the fog, the haunted farmhouse, they serve as a constant reminder that there are forces in this world that we can never fully understand. And as I drive through the darkness, I can't help but wonder what other mysteries are lurking just beyond the edge of perception, waiting to be discovered by those brave enough to venture into the unknown.